Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues. I'm your host, Shana. Thanks for tuning in. We're so glad to have you. Financial Issues is a ministry that helps to educate people about financial issues from a biblical worldview. We hope that you're a partner with us. If you're not, you can become one for just $132 a year. You'll learn how to build and manage your own biblically responsible portfolio using the suggestions that we give you for asset allocation and our buy list that is updated every single week. If you're a partner, check out the commentary. I do believe we got that posted up late yesterday afternoon/evening, I guess, depending on where you are. So make sure that you check that out. On today's show, we're going to take your calls and your questions. Our phone lines are open. 610-363-1110 is the phone number to get in line. We already have one person coming into the call queue. So we've got plenty of time today to get your call in. 610-363-1110. We're going to get an update on some of the latest headlines and hear from our friends at Crossroads Kids Club, one of our new partners, that a new way to fund the light. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Let's get to our stewardship verse of the day today. It comes from Psalm 144:15. Blessed are the people to whom such blessings fall. Blessed are the people whose God is the Lord. So, in case you haven't figured it out yet, we are in the month of Thanksgiving. And just a little over a week, we will be gathering together with our friends and our family to express our thankfulness. So it is good to know. It is good for us to know and be able to articulate exactly for what and to whom we are thankful. You know, King David does a great job of articulating both of those things in this verse from the Psalms. He first acknowledges God as the one from whom all blessings flow, and that is a crucial point. If we believe that we are self-made, then we attribute all of our blessings to our own talents and hard work, and we end up worshiping ourselves. If we take credit for all of our successes, how do we then explain our failures? Well, we must take credit for those as well. But David realizes that his shortcomings and God's perfection, David realizes his shortcomings and that God is perfect and lacks nothing. He names the things that he is grateful for. But one of the things that is missing from his list of blessings is his failures. But how could David have known to identify all those things as his blessings? Well, it's because he experienced the other side of those blessings and the emotions that came with them. Therefore, he had the capacity to be able to identify and be grateful for the real blessings. Perhaps all of you can be grateful for, perhaps all of you may not be in a season where you're experiencing blessings. Maybe you're in a season of lack. Maybe you're in a season of failure or heartache. But one day, hopefully, you can be grateful to God for delivering you from those things. Just know that if you're experiencing all of the blessings, if you are not experiencing all of the blessings in Psalm 144, God is still with you. He is still mindful of you, and he is ready to bless you and bring you into a season of blessing where you'll then be able to thank him for the blessings of the failures and heartaches that you may currently be experiencing. Because it is in those places, those failures, those heartaches, that we truly experience the presence of God and we draw close to him. And that is our greatest blessing.
That's awesome, Shana. Thanks for sharing that. You know, it reminded me of a quote, I think it was from C.S. Lewis, who said that something like God whispers in our joys and he speaks in other times, but he shouts in our trials. And I think that's really good that, you know, oftentimes when we're in hard times, it's often hardest to know that God is there, but that's oftentimes when God is speaking the loudest to us. So just a really great reminder there. I hope that we can take great encouragement from these blessings that come when we corporately humble ourselves and submit to God's authority. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Shana, our topic of the day, unfortunately, not so much of a
Speaking
blessing.
of hard times.
Yeah, speaking of hard times, is inflation. Not exactly a blessing here, particularly as we're considering the upcoming holidays. Many of us are preparing Thanksgiving meals and noticing that it is considerably more expensive than in past years. Shana, just to follow up here, how real is inflation?
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
If you ask the Biden bureaucrats, or if you ask AI like I did, who are probably fed by the Biden bureaucrats, then you will get an answer that goes like this. The current U.S. inflation rate is 2.6% as of October 2024. Historically, the average inflation rate from 1989 to 2019 was 2.5%. Over the past decade, inflation has averaged about 1.88%, with a notable spike to 8% in 2022 due to pandemic-related factors. Compared to these historical averages, the current rate is slightly above the long-term average, but significantly lower than the recent peak in 2022. The Federal Reserve aims for a target inflation rate of around 2% over time. Now, you will hear...
That was a good AI voice, by the way.
Yeah, maybe I could make some money.
There you go. A little side gig.
Selling my voice. But, you'll hear economic news and government sources tell you that the Fed has achieved success in bringing inflation down, getting close to their 2% target, they say. But then you start to wonder, well, why don't I see that? Why doesn't my money stretch as far as it used to? Why don't I feel the joy of lower inflation? Why does it cost me $60 to feed my family of 4 at Chick-fil-A when it only used to cost me $30?
Especially painful.
Government sites also tell us that inflation is up 20% since January of 2021. That's an average of over 5% a year. But wages, on the other hand, have only increased 16 to 17.5%. That's the simple math. We feel more stretched because we are more stretched.
Yep. Good to be reminded of the truth in the midst of the lies, Shana. Yeah. So follow-up question here. How much confidence should we have that an upcoming Trump administration might help curb the growth of inflation? And that's something that's on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I can be hopeful for that as well.
Sure.
But, here's the thing. All inflation is caused by the government's manipulating of the money supply, i.e. printing money. Governments have to print money when they don't bring in enough to cover its cost. It's very simple math. Trillions is a mind-blowing number, but if we take the trillions off the end and just look at the simple math, the government brings in less than 4 trillion and is spending currently over 7. It doesn't take more than a first grade education to realize that that doesn't work. And what gives me hope is that Elon Musk realizes this truth. I listened to him recently talk about this, and he said all government spending is taxation. The government doesn't collect, they print and put into circulation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods creates the phenomenon of rising prices that we call inflation. Therefore, if we're not paying in taxes for government spending, we're paying in inflation. So all government spending is taxation. Therefore, inflation is sort of the hidden tax. You can't find it on your tax return, but you can definitely find it evident in your household budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then really the next question that makes sense is, what are some of the best methods we have to beat inflation, this hidden tax?
Oh, this is a very complicated answer.
Yeah.
And this answer has eluded the best and the brightest minds of those running our country for years. But Americans who have real consequences, like bankruptcy, when they spend more money than they bring in, know that you cannot spend more than you make on a consistent basis. In fact, banks that would lend money to individuals have these really complicated formulas that only allow people to borrow certain amounts of money based on their income history and their debt ratios. So the way to curb inflation is, drum roll please, only spend money that you have.
Complicated.
Very complicated. Now, you, like I said, you only really have to have a first grade education to know that there's a problem when you try to subtract a bigger number from a smaller number. It just doesn't work. So We do have a little Thanksgiving Day meal prepping, planning, research that we've done. We don't have enough time to talk about it all before we get to this break, but just know that is coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about how inflation dinners have increased in price over the years. We're going to get to the real numbers. We're going to uncover that. And then we're going to ask for your help for some things. So we've done some homework to figure out what the cost or what they say the costs are, but we want to know what your cost is. So we know that you're prepping for Thanksgiving right now. Maybe you're doing your Thanksgiving shopping. Hang on to your receipts. Maybe you can help us in a social media campaign. You can find us on social media platforms, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Truth Social, X, all of those great places. Well, stick around, folks. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more financial issues.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
My name is Reagan Gardner, and I am in the 4th grade. Last year, I wanted to be like everybody else. I thought I had to act different, look different, and be different to be cool. When I joined Crossroads, I learned that God loves me just the way that I am.
Help reach more kids like Reagan with the hope of the gospel. To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachourschools.com.
Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner. Welcome back to Financial Issues. Thanks for sticking with us today. As a reminder, if you've been a long-term listener or partner, or maybe this is news to you, but Financial Issues, our mission here is twofold: to defund darkness with a biblically responsible investment strategy. When you become a partner with us, you can learn how to do that and manage your own portfolio, keeping the money that God has trusted you to manage out of the kingdom of darkness, from funding the kingdom of darkness. Our second part of that mission is to fund the light. So funding the light means being a joyful, generous, and obedient giver. And as you know, if you've been watching for a long time, we give you great opportunities to fund that light. And we're thrilled to share with you our newest sponsor and partner with the FISM family, Crossroads Kids Club. The Crossroads Kids Club was founded in 1998, and they mobilize and equip churches to bring the gospel into public elementary schools through an after-school program. The harvest is plentiful, as roughly 91% of children attend public schools. Public schools remain one of the greatest places of need for the light of the gospel to penetrate. Crossroads is doing this, with communities represented in 12 states throughout the country and growing. They're able to bring the gospel directly to children in public schools and minister to their needs where they are. So we are offering you another opportunity to fund the light. No better way than to bring the light of Jesus Christ directly to children. So We have some guests on the show this segment. Sara Paula, she is the Crossroads COO, and Kim Cline, Crossroads Ministries Coordinator. Sara, Kim, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do with the Crossroads Kids Club?
Yeah, absolutely. So you had that backwards. That's okay. I'm the COO. Sarah's the ministry coordinator.
Sorry about that.
And so no worries at all. And so I do a lot of the operations for the ministry and help lead the team. And Sara, you want to share what you do?
I am located in Florida as the regional coordinator, but I also do all of our national events like vision dinners as well.
Great. Well, share with our listeners, how did you guys get involved with Crossroads?
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, I was actually a Crossroads kid and actually got to participate in club. I actually went through a season in my life that I struggled with typical middle school girl bullying, and my school was a very dark, isolating place. And I was invited to this program called Crossroads that happened in my school right after school. And as soon as I walked in, I just felt welcomed and cared for and loved. And it was just a place that was so different than the same school that I experienced a few hours earlier. And so I was a part of Crossroads for a while, and then went into student ministry after college. And then after about 7 years in student ministry, God called me back to Crossroads on staff. And I've been on staff for about 6 years, almost 6 years.
Awesome.
So what about you, Sara?
Yeah, so when I was in sixth grade, Kim was actually our summer intern at church, and she quickly became the most influential person of my life. Walked me through high school and college and getting married, and I moved to Florida, and she was like, hey, my boss is going to be in town. You should just meet him, hear what I do. Maybe you can volunteer with us. And God quickly opened doors, and now I'm on staff. And sixth grade Sarah's living a dream come true of getting to work with Kim. So it's pretty great.
That's an awesome story. I have an 11-year-old girl, so I know well all of the middle school drama that you're speaking of. Now, as you go into the schools, what are some of the biggest challenges this generation of children are up against?
Yeah. Sara, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges is kids face a lot of isolation and loneliness. And through club, we really prioritize relationships and small groups. And kids are able to feel seen and heard and have a caring adult to talk to. And I think that kids don't always realize how isolated and alone they may feel. But when they have true connection and relationship, they can see that difference and they want that more. And so we teach them how they can have that with Jesus as well.
That's awesome. You know, it's great to hear about these things from the big picture conceptually, but can you share with our audience how you've personally seen God work through Crossroads? I always get a much better picture of what an organization does when I hear a specific story.
Yeah, I deal with leaders specifically, and I see so many leaders who are just willing to go outside the four walls of their church and go into the school where there is that darkness and that isolation and anxiety and all of that, and they just want to bring that light. And so I see a lot of God at work through the leaders. I had one of the leaders who called me at the end of last year, and she said, Kim, I have to tell you a story. This is a leader who's in North Carolina. And she said, there was a boy who was a new boy in our group. And we started talking about Jesus. And he said, who is Jesus? And so then the other kids got to jump in and tell them what they've learned about Jesus throughout the year. And that happened right inside their school. And it's just so cool that we get to reach kids that often won't walk in the doors of our school, or of our church, but they will be at school and they are open to the gospel and hearing about who this Jesus guy is anyway. So it's pretty cool.
Well, that's great. You know, we've got you in 12 states. We've got 50. I think every school could probably use a Crossroads Kids Club. So can you take this time to share with our listeners how we can all be a part of helping you guys get more clubs into more schools?
Yeah, absolutely. We are just launching our Drive for Five campaign. So currently, our model is to place a regional coordinator like Sara in a location. And that person is in charge of just growing the ministry, helping to reach more schools in that area, and growing the funding in that area. And so we want to, right now, currently we have 6 regional coordinators throughout the country. And our goal is to drive for 5 more. And so we want to have 11 next fall. And so we are pushing for $200,000 to come in by the end of the year to add 5 new regions. And then also to have a person, a director who will oversee all 5 of those, or all 11 of those regions as well.
Oh, that's great. So when donors support Crossroads, where does that money go?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our number one value is relationships. And so it wouldn't be a surprise that 70% of our budget goes to support people. And like I said, those regional coordinators are placed in those regions. And so a lot of our funds go to the actual people, the boots on the ground, the people who are making it possible to happen.
That's awesome. Well, I visited a kids club in Houston, it's about 2 hours from where I live, just to kind of get a feel for what you guys were doing. And I met your regional coordinator over there, Amber, and it was really neat. So I saw, when I got there, I saw all of these volunteers coming from a local church, to donate their time, and to, it's a great way that they give back to the kids. But then, once it gives the kids a place to get plugged into, right there in their local community. So it's, even though you guys are like a national ministry, you really help families get connected where they are. And then I found out that there's a church here local in my community that is interested in getting a kids club going. So if someone out there is listening today and this really resonates with them and strikes a chord, what are some of the ways that they can get involved?
Love it. Sara, why don't you share?
Yeah. So first off, if you're in Orlando, let's chat, because I'm always looking for more. But if you're in anywhere else in the country, we want to, we play. And so we connect with kids. You can volunteer. You can start a kids club. We can walk you through that. Pray. We really want to pray that more leaders come forward and can impact those kids. And then the leaders can stay and continue to build relationships, and then help financially grow our ministry so we can continue to reach new regions and more churches, to reach more communities, ultimately leading to more kids knowing the love of Jesus.
That's awesome. So you can get involved. You can volunteer your time. You can talk to your church about connecting your church with a kids club in your area, or starting a kids club. You can give financially if that's your gift in the way that God has equipped you to work in the kingdom. And if you can't do either one of those, you can still pray. So share with us, ladies, how we can be praying for you and the work of Crossroads Kids Club.
Yeah, open doors. We would love more open doors in, like you said, we're not in all of the states. So open doors to new places, to new connections, new churches who are willing to go outside their doors of their church and go into the community and reach kids where they're at. We know that kids are the most unreached but reachable people group in America, and we want to go where they are, which is public schools. So definitely pray for more workers, more people, more churches willing to make it happen, and that we could just continue to reach more kids each day.
Okay, well, we got about a little bit less than a minute left. You can share anything else that you'd like to share with our audience, and then tell us how to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for allowing us to jump in here and have this conversation. It's just truly a blessing to be a part of the Financial Issues family. And we are just so grateful for financial partners who make everything possible. This ministry, all of our clubs are free for kids to attend, for families to participate in. And so it wouldn't be possible without financial partners coming alongside of us. So if you're interested in participating or being a part of the ministry in that way, you could go to reachOurschools.com and you can find out more about how to participate in Crossroads.
Kim, Sara, thanks so much for being here today and sharing your experience. And we're so glad to be partnering with Crossroads Kids Club. So, folks, if you didn't catch that website, it is what?
ReachOurschools.com.
ReachOurschools.com. Or you can go to Financial Issues, the website that you're used to going to, and you can click on the Crossroads Kids Club banner and learn much more about this opportunity to fund the light. Well, folks, if you're listening on a station that only carries a short version of the show, we wish you a farewell. But for the rest of you, stick around. We've got lots more financial issues coming right up after this break.
So in the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
I want to make a point. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you.
I know.
My wife and I, we moved into this neighborhood. We had some experience with Crossroads Kids Club. We had served at another club. We kind of thought to ourselves, like, it would be really, really cool for us to actually bring in a club that was able to share the love of Jesus with kids directly into the school. And so we started our Crossroads at Hilltop.
Crossroads is amazing. You can learn all kinds of things about God. That He loves all of us. He died on the cross to pay for our sins. That He will help me in every way.
There is just such tremendous opportunity to reach kids in some of these areas that just aren't being reached.
Sometimes I pray every night. When I feel alone sometimes, God is right there sitting next to me. I can rely on Him no matter what happens.
To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachOurschools.com.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan. Welcome back to Financial Issues. We're so glad that you're continuing on with us.
If you missed the first part of the show, I would encourage you to go back and listen. We just had some special guests on from the Crossroads Kids Club. It's a new partnership that Financial Issues has, and it's a way to get the gospel of Jesus Christ into public schools. Yes, you heard me correctly, public schools. So if that strikes a chord with you, go back and listen. And we had some guests on that gave us the details on how these kids clubs work and how you can get involved. Well, yesterday the markets rose thanks in part to Tesla's rally. By Monday's closing bell, the Dow was down 0.13%, the S&P was up almost 0.4%, and the Nasdaq up almost 0.6%. This morning, the market has opened in negative territory. So the market is having some jitters this morning on the Ukraine reignited tensions, Ukraine and Russia. So the Dow's opened down 0.75 point. The Nasdaq and the S&P down right around 0.5 point. We got earnings from Walmart and Lowe's out this morning. I do believe, I don't know if it's this morning or this afternoon. I did not get a chance to look at them, so we can't talk about those. Tomorrow we will get earnings from NVIDIA. That's the big earnings news this week, and we'll get the earnings from NVIDIA in the midst of all of the Trump tariff talk. So, NVIDIA has derived about 57% of its revenue from abroad in the last quarter, so from foreign places. So people are wondering, could tariffs be a huge problem for NVIDIA? Could it be the Jenga piece that causes the stock market to come crashing down? Because a lot of the gains in the last year or so have been fueled by this AI craze. So when Trump's first round of tariffs were announced in 2018, NVIDIA stock plunged by about 31%. But that was before this whole AI craze blew up. According to Bloomberg, spending on generative AI may reach $200 billion in 2025. And NVIDIA, according to Bloomberg Intelligence, will be on the receiving end of much of that. So $200 billion spent in 2025. And NVIDIA is saying that their demand for their Blackwell chip is, quote, well above supply. So they're selling a lot more of them than they can actually make. Analysts are projecting NVIDIA revenue for 2025 to be $126 billion. So they don't even have to get a little bit more than half of that total spend. And analysts are predicting $186 billion in revenue for NVIDIA in 2026. So AI is coming. Tariffs won't stop companies from paying for these chips. So I think NVIDIA is fairly safe. You'll always see volatility in the stock price of NVIDIA, and it won't necessarily be all upside volatility like we've seen recently. Some will be downside.
And Shana, quick note, Walmart and Lowe's did report earnings. Looks like they both beat earnings expectations. Don't know if you wanted to mention that later in the week maybe, but...
Yeah, maybe we can get to that. I'd like to be able to dig into the numbers a little bit and see, listen to the earnings calls and see what they say about the consumer. Walmart has been saying that, been confirming the bifurcated consumer, that higher income consumers are doing fairly well. Lower income consumers have been spending more of their discretionary income on necessities, like food. So it'll be interesting to see what information they share with us for this most recent quarter. We've got some people in the call queue waiting. Let's get to them. First up, we have Jay from Texas. Hi, Jay. You're live on Financial Issues.
Hello, Shana. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Great. I guess we were all wrong about the Biden administration. They are good at one thing. They're passing off about as many problems as they could possibly pass off. And the example is what Biden did yesterday. So let me ask you this. I'm 80 years old, and I'm wondering, it sounds like it might take a long time to straighten the market out, straighten the country out. I'm running. I don't know if I'll run out of days before I run out of money. But looking at it this way, do you think it would be better? Even I can only get about 4% on a 5-year CD to go out and buy some of those as a mix to my portfolio, as opposed to waiting for the market to turn and just kind of keep them in CDs and maybe longer term. What do you think the length, and I know you can't do it, but what's a good guess on what the length of the market will maybe that they'll straighten this mess out that we were left?
Yeah, they've got a lot of things to straighten out, inflation being one of them. They're going to have big issues with employment. We've already seen unemployment on the rise with deportations. That's going to be a huge toss-up in the employment space, but the Biden administration was good at something else, and that was creating a lot of government jobs and growing the size of the federal government. So, the left will say that deportations is really going to hurt the labor market, but, I think it'll be interesting to see how many of these possibly 20 million illegal immigrants have actually been contributing to our economy versus just being a drain on the economy, on government assistance and government benefits. So you're right. It will be very interesting to see all of this play out, and it is going to take some time for Trump to get some policies enacted, and two, for those to have an impact on the economy. But we seem to be sort of in a little honeymoon period right now where even my son noticed that breakfast was cheaper than it was a month ago. I'm like, how does this even happen just, overnight? So, yes, it will take some time. But I guess to answer your question, the most important thing to do is to look at your portfolio tracker to see where you are. If you've had a CD that has just come due or that is coming due, update your tracker, put that money back into cash, and then see how your portfolio tracker looks. Now, if it's telling you that you need to put the money back into the fixed income category, then, you have some choices. What's there on the asset allocation model? I would consider looking at the preferreds. I think some of the preferreds are going to give you more of a yield than even a 5-year CD. We may see those longer term, or intermediate term, the 5-year CDs. We have seen those yields kind of on the rise. We're going to continue to see the short end, the 1 year and less, 2 year and less, continue to decrease. So my first stop would be to look at the portfolio tracker, see where that money needs to be deployed. And then, if you're only choosing between, if your only option, or if you're dead set on getting a CD, I would make sure that they're laddered. So I would look at the maturity of your other CDs, and let's say maybe you've got a 1 year, CDs that are going to come due in 6 months, 1 year, and 1.5 years. I would look and see what that 2-year CD is going to be, and if it's paying a decent rate, say over 4.5%, I might go with that one over the 5-year CDs. I expect intermediate and long-term rates to continue rising.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And can I ask one quick question about Crossroads?
Sure.
Okay. My wife and I belong to a church who split off from the United Methodist. Okay. And so we're building. And
okay.
And I've got the job of going out and trying to, he's a preacher. I said, I want to get seats in the seat. So what I'm asking is, how do I circumvent all the ridiculous laws that they have against Christianity now that have kind of passed? Now, Texas is a little more moderate than a lot of states, but I just wonder how they get around approaching a school district with the rules and regulations they have about Christian teachings.
I think that would be a great question for Crossroads, and maybe connect in with them about how they do it. But our laws do allow. I mean, you've got the future athlete or the Christian athletes. I forget what they're called. That group can go in there. Crossroads can go in there, definitely. And I would think that, partnering with Crossroads is maybe a great way for you to get into some of the schools. If you have, I think it only takes, and I might be speaking out of line here, but I think it only takes, around 6 to 10 volunteers that are able to go on a weekly basis to the school. And when you connect with the schools, then, you have an opportunity to connect with the parents and invite them to church as well. Well, we're out of time on this segment. Thanks for calling, Jay. Great questions. So glad to hear that you're interested in Crossroads. Stick around, everybody. We're going to be back with more financial issues right after this break.
What are some of the basics of the FISM partnership?
We look for good companies that people can invest in and expect a reasonable level of success over time. So for $132 a year, they get a step-by-step process.
Money talks, and so where you put your money says a lot about your heart.
It's for people whose hearts have been convicted to stand up and put a stop to the funding of evil.
Become a partner today by simply going to financialissues.org/join. Click the green button to become a partner today.
Farming lets you see your next generation. Our grandkids are somewhat involved, and my son-in-law and daughter help us. They're deeply involved in farming. We really like the sharing because you get a letter and it says what happened and why the person has a need, and you just feel a connection with them. It was just neat to get all those checks and letter. Everybody sends a letter or a card or something, and it's a different way of doing things, but it's a very good way of doing things.
Pharrell came to Crossroads as a fourth grader. His name had been brought to my attention by the school principal. She was concerned about the direction he was heading.
I remember I wasn't the best kid. I got into trouble a lot.
He became a very active part of Crossroads Kids Club.
Mr. Engel, he was the leader that really impacted my life in so many ways. I honestly didn't want Crossroads to end.
We would invite all the students to come to our youth group here at Waterfront.
I felt God saying, come home, come to me. It felt like I was set free.
And I'll never forget the day when we had the privilege and the honor to baptize Pharrell.
I hugged Mr. Engel. I don't know if he understands. I'm truly, thankful to have him through the whole journey. If it wasn't for Crossroads, I probably wouldn't be in the place that I am right now. I wouldn't be a follower of Christ.
Help reach more kids like Pharrell with the hope of the gospel.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. I'm your host, Shana Burt, and we did a little bit of homework here at Financial Issues, and we found out that over the past 5 years, the cost of Thanksgiving meals has experienced significant inflation. Who's shocked to hear that?
Not me.
And not anybody that listens to this show regularly.
Normally, it's just our stomachs that inflate, I guess, inflation. But I guess now it's the cost, too.
Yeah, it is definitely cost, too. Well, here's what we found. In 2020, the cost of a Thanksgiving meal for 10 was around $47. Now, I'll tell you up front, I'm a little bit hesitant to fully accept all of these numbers, but I guess it's just like the basic thing, like the turkey,
what do they eat,
box of stuffing.
One turkey leg with that or something?
Yeah, for between 10 people, you're going to have to ration that turkey.
That's
but
right.
Anyway, we'll go with it. We know the challenges surrounding this study. But in 2020, the price of a Thanksgiving meal for 10 people was $47. In 2021, that rose to over $53. That was a 14% increase over the previous year. Doesn't sound like it went lockstep with inflation. 2022, the cost was up again 20%, not over 2020, but 20% over the 14% that 2021 saw. Cost in 2022, $64. 2023, the price actually slightly decreased from $64 to a little over $61, but that's still 30% higher than in 2020. 2024, they're saying that the cost of a typical Thanksgiving meal is going to be around $65.51. Now, that's 40% higher than in 2020. So if you listen to the government numbers that tell us that inflation is up, around 21, 22% over the last 4 years, this kind of blows their theory right out of the water. So I do still find it hard to believe that you can feed a family of 10 for less than $70, but that's what they're telling us. And you know what? We want your help. We want to know what it cost you. So look for this clip. We're going to put out a clip on social media, all the different social media platforms that we can be found on, and tell us what it cost you. Save your receipts if you're shopping for Thanksgiving, and try to break it down for us for, to feed 10 people so we can compare what these cost. This is going to be very interesting. I think we want to hear from you. And the other thing that is going to do is it's going to help us get in front of more like-minded people. So, when you share our social media post and add your input to it, that's going to put us in front of all your friends and family who will hopefully get interested in what we're doing here at Financial Issues, which is to defund darkness, to build biblically responsible investment strategies where we're taking the companies of corporate America that are contributing to the moral decay of this country, who use shareholder dollars to fund things like abortion, pornography, the LGBTQ agenda that you become complicit in when you own their shares. We teach you how to weed out those companies, and we give you ideas to build a portfolio from companies who are not using shareholder dollars to contribute to an ungodly agenda. And we also at Financial Issues encourage you to fund the light, to be joyful and generous givers. So help us out. Share the cost of your Thanksgiving meal with us on social media. All right, folks, we've got 2 callers in the queue, and I think we've got just about enough time to get to both of them. So, Michael from Texas, you are live on Financial Issues.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What I've got here is I'm looking at moving out of. I'm a partner, been a partner for about 5.5 years, but I've got part of my company, the part I work for, has been sold to another company. Being 67, well, anyway, I didn't get invited to go along, keep on working. So I'm looking at having to go into retirement. Wasn't planning on it, but that's the way it is. But anyway, my question is I've got a pretty good chunk of money in 401k and traditional IRA, all in individual except for the 401k. It's all in mutuals. Not that anything are biblical, but responsible, that they are mutuals with my corporation I'm working for. Looking at moving everything into the Timothy out of the 65 into retirement portfolio allocation model into the Timothy. Would that be a good idea? And then, if it is, would it be, how quick would I need to do that?
Okay.
Meaning employment at the end of the year.
Okay. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get that money rolled over into a traditional IRA. Now, I think I heard you right, and you said that you're going to follow the Timothy model. So we have 2 models. One is a more hands-on approach. That is the investment model, where you build your portfolio out of individual stocks and some of the Timothy funds and some fixed income. And then we have the Timothy model that uses exclusively mutual funds and ETFs. So if you're doing that, I still recommend setting up a discount brokerage platform where you can purchase all of the things that are in that model. So because if you're going to
Fidelity, I'm already part of that. That's what I've been building all these portfolios with since I started with you guys.
Okay, so your question really is how quickly do you get it built, or
how quickly do I mean, it's a good idea to move out of the, like I've got all individuals right now, and we've got some Timothy, like I said, following the 65 to retirement portfolio allotment right now, and so I just didn't know if it'd be better to move out of that into the full Timothy model, and then how quickly would I need to do that? Would be a good idea. How to transition it.
Well, it all depends on how hands-on you want to be. Now, I prefer the individual model where you build out, you pick your own stocks from our buy list and use our portfolio tracker to do that. And it does include some Timothy funds, like in international spaces, fixed income spaces, and things like that. So it's a good blend of both. And that is the one that I prefer, but this is my wheelhouse. I like doing those things. I like learning about companies and, those kind of things. If you really want a more hands-off approach, then use the fund ETF strategy, because when you use mutual funds and ETF, you're turning over the stock selection to a mutual fund company. Now, Timothy's the best one to turn over that responsibility to, because they are biblically responsible, and you can be assured that, none of the companies that you're going to be investing in are supporting garbage. But it all depends. Don't try to split them up or do both. Pick one or the other. And I would just encourage you to go on. Sounds like you have experience doing the individual model. And if you've done okay with that, I would suggest just sticking with it. And, you'll use your portfolio tracker. You'll put the rollover money into cash, because that's usually 401ks will typically force you to liquidate your funds whenever you move them out. And then you'll just start to deploy that money into the areas that your portfolio tracker is showing you.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay.
All right. Great question. Thanks for calling, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Let's get to Lynn. Lynn's calling from Oregon. Hi, Lynn. You're live on Financial Issues.
Good morning. I have a question about a stock. It's one that I've had for quite a while. It's E89. It is paying a fairly good dividend, and I believe it's still on just the hold list, but it's been down for so long. Is that something we can anticipate to get a little better?
Well, I guess it depends on when you bought it. I mean, what I'm looking at is it's had a steady trajectory upward since about 2020. Of course, it took a dip when oil prices went negative, but then it's come back. The yield is over 7.27% is the yield right now. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great company. I think they are going to be set up to be very successful under a Trump administration if he follows through with everything that he says that he's going to do regarding the oil industry, and the economy grows and picks up. That's going to create more demand for the kind of things that this company does. So I definitely would hold it.
Okay, that's good to know. I did appreciate the dividend. Just kind of wondering about and it has come up some, but I'm still down over 60%. But the dividend certainly does help. The other one, just real quick, E44, I think that was one that you were suggesting selling because of it not being biblically responsible. Is it also some of the standards of the company, the financials of it that are a problem?
Give me a second to try to find that particular one. Okay. If we didn't indicate it in the alert, and I'm sorry, we're like 1 minute down to the end of the show, but if we didn't indicate it in the alert, then probably not. But, for us, it's a no-brainer. If it's not biblically responsible, we have no tolerance for that. And, it is a recommended sell. So, I don't know, maybe you can send that question in through Ask Shana if I didn't answer it completely, because I had a little bit of a hard time putting my fingers on exactly which one we were talking about. All right, folks, we're at the end of the program today. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow to remind you that time is getting short, the Master's coming back, and we want to help you be found good and faithful stewards. So tune in tomorrow for more financial issues. Check us out in the meantime, financialissues.org.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.